Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of, my experience of growing up and the, frankly wonderful life I've had, um, and how that's led me here, and some of the unanswered questions that that's posed as well. So, we've been talking a lot about myth and, magic on this retreat. I grew up in Dorset on the south coast. I think it's probably the most magical, wonderful place I've ever been. The older I get, the more and more I think, there's really nowhere like it. And looking back, I really can't imagine a more wonderful childhood. I had a loving, supportive family. I had this kind of mythic land with Jurassic Coast just round the corner, and living in a small town where, from a very young age, the age of 8 or something, you had complete run of the town, and, you could walk out of the house anytime. The door was always unlocked. And I was very lucky because while the town was small, it was, I also was very conscious that the world was very big. My parents are from different places. My mum's Greek, and my granddad lived in Athens, and we spent a lot of time there in the summer. And my dad was from London, kind of Indian family through East Africa and Tanzania. And I spent a lot of time up in South London with that Indian side of the family who lived a completely different way to us. And so I was very aware that there was kind of much more in the world. And that gave me these big, wide eyes that Kuslasara talked about yesterday, always searching for meaning and searching for more. So the older I got, this like theme of exploration and discovery just grew. And growing up, I had kind of three real loves and three real ways to grab hold of that. So the first is just fact. I love facts. I loved reading. I loved academic study. I was usually top of my class. And my mum really taught me to love reading, and used to read to me. And the more I read, the more I learned, and the more I learned, the more I wanted to know. And ultimately, I thought that I could answer, the big questions in the world through reading and through learning more. It was in one of these books about the age of 14 or 15. I was fascinated by the East, and specifically with China. I was in one of these books that I first started reading about Buddhism. And at 14, 15, I built a little shrine in my room and started reading the Pali Canon at home. I mean, I don't know what I was reading, and I don't know, I certainly wouldn't have understood any of it. Even now, I can't understand so much. So I'm not sure what I thought back then. But that was one of my ways in, and that was one of my kind of paths. The other one was idols. I always had a fascination for idols. I actually remember when I got my first laptop, I created a folder that I put on the desktop called Idols, and it had headshots of all the people I wanted to be like in. So I thought I'd share some of those people with you now. So there were some obvious ones. There was Steve Jobs. There was Bob Dylan, who's probably still my favorite. There was Che Guevara. And going back, I was kind of shocked to see that Biggie Smalls was in there as well. I'm not really sure what I got from that. But I didn't just have these idols in a folder. I really imbued them. I really tried to be them. So when I read that Steve Jobs only ate apples when he was building the company, I created a big stew full of carrots, and I told my parents I'm only eating that. And that lasted for about 2 weeks before they put an end to it. With Bob Dylan, I kind of grew my hair long. I didn't shower for a ridiculous amount of time. I always had my harmonica strapped to me. And I remember one summer trying to be like Che Guevara. I bought a two-piece, a camo two-piece from a charity shop, and I wore it for the entire 6 weeks. So I was pretty kind of, yeah. I guess what I was feeding off was their confidence. They had kind of confidence and character and commitment in what they were doing. And I guess I was really, really inspired by that. The third thing I want to talk about is, growing up in this theme of exploration and discovery was status and competition. So I always wanted to be the best. I was always the top of the class. All of that kind of really helped me find identity and meaning. That theme continued throughout my life. And then when I fell into sales, I just thought this is the perfect job for me. There was a leaderboard at the end of the week every week, and I was at the top. And that was, the best thing that could happen. And a couple of years after leaving uni, I ended up in this amazing situation. I loved traveling. I had this kind of patch in Scandinavia. I was 23 years old and I was flying to Scandinavia once a month. I was earning more money than the rest of my friends at the time. I just thought this is absolutely perfect. And this is kind of everything I was looking for. And a lot of those ideas around my idols and that confidence, that inspiration had kind of faded away. But I think the pandemic was a huge turning point for all of us. And for me, what that meant is stripping away all the glitz and glamour of my life and looking at what I was really doing. And I started to really question, where have those ethics, where have those morals, where have all those principles, where have all those idolizations, where have they gone? My mum is a big socialist and a primary school teacher and a union leader, and I kind of felt like I was letting her down. What was I doing with my life and with this life that they'd given me? So that kind of prompted a lot of questions. The other thing that was happening at this point was the calendar was just getting more stacked up and time was going faster, and the faster it went, the more things I wanted to put in the calendar, and the more things I put in the calendar, the faster it went. And it felt like it was running completely out of control. And I started to think about time passing for the first time. So time was passing. I felt like I didn't have a handle on my ethics. And I looked back at the threads that throughout my life, and this theme of Buddhism and mysticism and meditation kind of kept cropping up. So I went back there. I was very kind of sociable around London. I was participated in a lot of clubs and activities. I think it was only a mountain of time since I found the LBC. And I ended up there for a meditation evening, and I did okay. This was Mochi Bandhu, but I wasn't particularly impressed. I thought I was a little bit above it. I thought the teachings were really interesting, but found a lot of the reverence to be a lot. But they did have these people stood at the front holding offering bowls, and these people did seem confident. They seemed really confident in what they were doing. They seemed like they picked a direction and that they were going for it. And that felt really inspiring. And that was enough to keep me coming back. And through the last 2 years, I've been kind of going through my journey, increasing the time that I spend there. The thing I never expected to find was any form of community, and I found that mainly in study. I meet with 10 guys every Wednesday. We unpack the Dharma, we talk about how it relates to our life, and I've built real beautiful friendships there. Friendships that have pushed me and helped me to refine my life and my ethics in a way that now feels much more balanced. And now through slowing down, through meditation, through contemplation, I've managed to create a life for myself where everything's running well on one side, and also I feel like it's ethical and it's positive and it's filled with community, and it's a beautiful place that I'm really proud of. So I still have these wide eyes. I still want more facts, and I'm still searching for more idols. But a bigger question has started to open up. So I have a life that works, a life that I'm proud of, and I have this deep call to the Dharma and to the Buddha and to the Sangha that comes again and again, and I can't seem to shake. So how do I unify the two? And what's next for me along that journey? That's what I'm here to find out, and I'd love to leave you all with that question. Thank you.